Hey everyone, Sam here, also known as Mr. Stainless, and I'm back once again with some more Skull and Bones info. This is a game I'm really looking forward to, and the dev team are doing a great job at keeping everything under wraps until they're ready to show off the game at its full potential, which is equal parts understandable and equal parts frustrating, really, mainly because I just can't wait to find out more and see more about this title. But recently, Gamasutra sat down with the dev team, asked a few questions, and managed to get some new nuggets of info which I'm going to share with you in today's video. So this is all coming from an interview by Matthew Kumar. I'll leave a link to the article in the video description, but the first person Matthew sat down with was Marlo Floor. He's the senior art director on Skull and Bones and has worked on previous titles like Ghost Recon Phantoms, Assassin's Creed Syndicate and Assassin's Creed Origins. Matthew asked, for an art director, what's exciting about Skull and Bones? Marlo said this: the biggest breakthrough that we have would be the ocean tech that we have. It started with Assassin's Creed 3, and you'll see some of it in Assassin's Creed Origins as well. Of course, both games have very different requirements. In our case, we focus more on how the ocean moves and how it's rendered. The ocean is physical. It reacts to lighting pretty much how you would expect water to react, so we have a lot of parameters that contribute to the colour and transparency of the water. We don't simply think how transparent it should be, we have several types where we can create muddy or clear water, or replicate how the ocean, the Indian Ocean, actually looks in terms of the colour and how it changes colour through depth as well. So that creates a really convincing look for the ocean, whatever time of day you see it in. Matthew, the interviewer, then goes on to ask, I saw on the Origins team they have a sandbox where they're working with different types of water, seeing how muddy water flows into clear water and so on. That's the kind of thing you collaborate on? Marlo replies, yeah, we get parts of that. For example, if we look at the game Origins, a lot of it is lakes and rivers, and we do a lot with ocean, which is more of a flowing type of water. So in terms of collecting sediments and so on, we don't focus too much on that, but we focus a lot on how it moves and how it creates translucency. Also, the game Skull and Bones focuses on the fantasy of being at the helm of a ship. So everything that we do in terms of how we realise the visuals from that point of view. So in terms of the effects, you see the spray, how the wind blows through your sail, and a lot of these little details really add up to the experience that we want to build. Now, we know from previous interviews that the wind is going to play an integral part in the immersive experience of Skull and Bones, and it should be possible while playing the game to be able to interpret how you should sail your ship as well as the wind speed and direction simply based on visual and audio cues from the game. Marlo went into a little more depth regarding this next. That's one thing we really focused on. How do we create that feedback? Can you physically see wind when you play? That one is a pretty complex effect to achieve because we use a lot of ingredients. For example, we have this ocean spray that when it sprays and it hits in the wind, it actually follows the direction of the wind. You can see it on the sails, on the ship, they actually turn based on the wind. Even droplets on the screen will actually drift towards the direction of the wind. So it's a lot of these things that we use because, for example, when we see the screen, almost 80% of that will be your ship. We needed to find ways on how we can communicate to the player the wind direction at any point when you're playing, since it's an integral part of our gameplay. For that, we needed to basically merge the art direction with gameplay. There's a very fine line where feedback can become cartoony in a way. For example, if you create wind trails that are visible to the player, that does the job feedback-wise, but it doesn't necessarily fit the art direction in a grounded game. So we focused a lot on immersion. From there, you need to really find a good balance between something that's readable and something that's believable from a player's standpoint. I think if there's one thing we can take away from Marlo's answers in this interview, it's that there is a real focus in the Skull and Bones team towards immersion. It's something equally that we're seeing a real push for in other Ubisoft franchises like Assassin's Creed and Ghost Recon. The amount of time, effort and resources Ubisoft is putting into making sure that their games portray not only a realistic but authentic and immersive experience is really interesting and pretty cool. I'm going to be bringing you all more Skull and Bones info once I get my hands on it, so if you want to be kept up to date, do be sure to subscribe, but in the meantime, let me know what you think of this game. Is it one you think you'll be picking up next year? Until next time though folks, have a great week, and I will of course speak to you all soon.